All right, so welcome to this third and last session of today's event, where we will actually explore how to upskill the AEC industry to deliver high-quality energy efficiency retrofitting with BIM learning tools. No less than this. So, my name is Amandine de Koster. I'm a project advisor for EUSEW, the executive agency for SMEs. And I'm very pleased to be here with you this afternoon. So I'd like to thank AC for the kind invitation to chair this session. What I found particularly interesting in the scope of today's session is to combine education training, energy efficiency, energy performance, and digitalization. Indeed, through all the activities that we are funding in our agency, we see more and more a need to put the emphasis on the nexus between these three dimensions. My colleague Olaf Leux, who will close the day, will say a bit more about our agency and what we do, so I don't need to dwell on this. What I'd like to do as a very short introduction is to say a few words about an initiative we've been funding since 2011, which is called Build Up Skills. In a nutshell, it's a strategic initiative that started under the Intelligent Energy Europe program, and the main aim was to support the upskilling of building professionals towards energy efficiency. It started very much as an initiative focusing on, let's say, blue-collar workers, so on-site workers and craftspeople, but gradually we expanded it to all professions, including architects. We started from funding national projects, and gradually we moved towards multi-country projects. In a nutshell, what was done? The project gathered all key stakeholders at national level to develop, let's say, a status quo analysis to map the skills gap in the construction sector. And from there, they developed national roadmaps of actions to remedy the skills gap. In a second phase, we funded projects that actually develop training and qualification schemes to alleviate this skills gap. Until now, we have 57 projects already finalized and 11 more are ongoing. And altogether, this represents 40 million euro of European funding, so quite a big pipeline of projects. Actually, a number of the projects we have been funding through this initiative, they are supporting the rollout of what I would call the digital skills towards the building sector, notably through BIM. And we will hear more in a moment about 4 of these projects. This picture, I'm sure you've seen already, or similar ones. What does it tell us? Actually, that we are moving from a traditional idea of the construction sector to a new paradigm of the construction industry, where all stages, from design, construction operation, maintenance, and even decommissioning, should be seamlessly integrated. And the beauty of BIM is that it can help achieving this. It can help professions interact more efficiently, and thereby leading to a faster, cheaper construction, hopefully, and also greater energy efficiency and greater quality. But for this to happen, we need to have professionals who know how to use BIM in the best possible way, and that know how to use it to interact also with others. And I think the projects that we have invited today will demonstrate that this is possible. These projects, they are here. They are funded from the energy efficiency strand of Horizon 2020. From their names, you can guess that they have something to do with BIM, indeed. They are all working on developing BIM qualification and training schemes. They cover no less than 16 European countries. And what is even nicer is that they work also very much together in trying to build a platform at European level. So what they will do, they will share their experience on how they have been tackling the challenges I just mentioned, and they will focus really on the training approaches and the learning tools that they have been developing. So Without further ado, I will pass the floor to Henri Lemarois, who's our first speaker, and he will present the BIMplement project. Henri Lemarois has 20 years of experience in the management of enterprises in the packaging industry. And following this, he was teaching management at the Lille University for 10 years, and ultimately he managed the Lille Business School. He's now a consultant specialized in employment issues, and for the past 10 years, he's been involved in the Build Up Skills initiative. Henri, the floor is yours. Yes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. I understand we are speaking in 3 parts. First, a brief introduction, and then I pass the floor to my colleagues of the other projects. Then we move to the other issue. So just a very brief introduction to BIMplement. Why BIMplement? As it was already said, there is no energy efficiency without quality, and there is no quality. Do I have to push something to make it good? D'accord. Non, c'est pas tout à fait ça. Okay. And there is no quality without training. The problem being that most of the SMEs, managers and workers, think that training is useless because they know. Actually, they don't know, as you know. But we have this main obstacle of having to convince these people, craftsmen, managers of SMEs, workers, to go for training. Furthermore, BIM is a big fright for them. They are afraid about BIM. So that's why BIMplement was launched with a group of Dutch, Polish, Lithuanian, French and Spanish people. How BIMplement? So the why being what it is. How? We have first developed a BIM integrated qualification framework, which has been further on implemented on 2 specific topics: air tightness and ventilation. Then we have been configuring tools, learning methods, and qualification schemes, and you will see some example later on when we will present how the training, the BIMplement training are done. And actually, at this time, we are implementing the trainings in 50 pilot field labs and experimental sites. The keywords being cross-craft, cross-trades, and hands-on. We are trying again to answer the problematics of especially blue-collar workers. So that was about BIM in 3 minutes.
So, just brief introduction. Now we will hear about NetUBIEP project from Arjan Schouwen, who is a project coordinator at ISSO, which is the Dutch Knowledge Institute for the building and HVAC sector. And so Arjan coordinates BIM projects related to standards, qualification frameworks, learning content, and adoption of innovative solutions. He's involved in many European projects, including NetUBIEP, but also BIMplement and the Build Up Skills initiative.
Hi everyone. I'm part of the NetUBIEP project, Network for Using BIM to increase energy performance. What we are doing is we are developing BIM qualification models that describes the skills and competences for different BIM profiles and related to energy performance requirements. Why do we do that? To get a better comprehension of energy issues along the value chain of building industry. And with the result, both existing and new buildings will have better energy performances. Now, we have in this project 4 target groups, which you can find here in small, very small You have the public administration, the municipalities, the local governments. Next, you have the professionals as a target group, the engineers, and most of you, the architects, are part of that. Also the technicians, and that's where I come back to later, the link with BIMplement, the people who are at the workforce, who work with their hands too, and the tenants, owners, and building administrators. And we all mapped those target groups to different BIM profiles, because in every country you have different BIM profiles. In the Netherlands, a BIM manager has maybe different competences, different skills necessary than in Italy. And we are trying to get one base for all of them. We proceeded according a few steps. First, we have to identify which requirements each target group has. Next, we have to develop the BIM qualification models. When we have done that, we have to validate that the models through training activities. So if we have emphasized a certain aspect too much, maybe we should reconsider the qualification model. Then we go into standardize the BIM training and qualification model, and also to exploitation and dissemination of the BIM qualification model. And that stage is we are searching a link with the Building Smart for this. That's my piece.
Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping the time. Now we will hear about BIMcert, presented by Paul McCormack, who's working at Belfast Metropolitan College. Paul has a very robust record of achievement at all levels of management in both industry, research, and education. And he has been a founder of many startups. He's been leading highly successful projects and developing curricula for professional courses in many thematic areas, including renewables, digital design, energy efficiency, cybersecurity, IoT, and smart cities. Paul, you have the floor.
Amandine Goromayogov, August Kidmila Falcher, and BIMcert. It's nice when you're in Brussels, you hear all the different languages of the European community, and it's nice to use your own language. So I welcome you all in Irish and thanked Amandine in Irish for the introduction. BIMcert is a definition of all of our partners looking to see how to make something work. The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. We all know the benefits of BIM. It's been displayed in all the projects across Europe and all different build-up and different initiatives. But the breakdown in the supply chain is getting it into the blue-collar workers and getting those people that you want to implement the BIM strategies on the site to actually volunteer to take on training. Now, it doesn't matter what nationality you are, be you Irish, British, German, French, Dutch, whatever. The hardest people to find to get to the training are those that want to avoid the training. Nobody will put their hand up and volunteer to go for training, because in many cases, your blue-collar workers, there could be levels of illiteracy where they can't read or write. You're going to ask them to take on digital tools. Their only access to digital tools is watching their children at home on mobile phones, and you bring them into an area that they're not comfortable with. And you're asking them to do it on top of their day job. That hasn't worked to date. So our approach with BIMcert is to look at how do we get it to work by working in partnership with the groups, working in partnership with the key people. At the core of our project, we have the consortium, which are the core partners ranging from Ireland across to Macedonia, and the vast differences in usage of BIM and the usage of skills across that is recognised. In Macedonia, they're embracing all new technologies. When we had our partner meeting there, the president of Macedonia came to meet us. When we have our partner meeting in Britain, we might get the owner of McDonald's to come and meet us. That's the difference that governments and people portray it. And you have to, when we're looking at a European solution, we have to address that. Our outer core are all of our technological advisory partners, TAP, and the industry advisory partners. And they set our strategic direction. We don't set it. EUSEW doesn't set it. Horizon 2020 doesn't set it. Industry and the users of BIM and those that want to implement BIM set the direction for us. They're our key partners. Going the wrong way. No. I'll give you that. Yeah, that's good. That's not mine. No. No.
Oh, you had only that one slide, I'm afraid.
One slide.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Well, my apologies. My apologies. But that's why we are doing what we're doing with all of our partners, is to try and overcome the blockages in the supply chain. And the blockage in the supply chain is to get the people, that blue-collar worker, to identify and to take on the training in a manner that suits them, in a model that suits them, and in a time that suits them. So make it blended, make it digital, and make it time-friendly for them. And get the owners to accept it. That's where the technology advisory partners are. Historically, two of the worst industries in the world that invest in training, agriculture and construction. They're no different. And that's what BIMcert is looking to do. We're partnering with the other 3 BIM projects under the current EUSEW projects, and we've started what we call BIM Alliance. It's not a closed loop. It's looking to see what everybody's been doing in different parts and combining and getting the best results. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Quite some clear and strong messages. Last but not least, now we will hear from project BIMeet by Sunil Suwal. He's an architect by profession and is currently working as a lecturer at the Metropolia University of Applied Sciences in Finland, where BIM is one of the key focuses. He teaches BIM tools and processes for the engineering students and is involved in continuing BIM education for the AEC stakeholders of the Finnish construction industry. He is also involved in the Building Smart Finland's education room and also pursuing his doctoral studies at Aalto University. Sunil?
Thank you, Amandine, for the nice introduction. So basically, Paul and others have already told us what this BIM and skills means. And our project mainly focuses on the trainings for both BIM and energy efficiency and a way to harmonize it across the EU. Everybody knows that we have this demand for the skilled workforce in our construction sector, but there is no common framework to combine all of these people into one, saying that, okay, the person who has some skills about architectural profession in Finland can go and work towards other countries with the same kind of frames or the skills that he has. So basically, our focus is to establish a EU-wide standardized, harmonized qualification framework that could support mobility of different professions across EU. And in our project, its stage of the building life cycle is focused, as well as all the actors. We are primarily also focusing towards white collars and blue collars of the workers. The technology part is already there, but it's not yet mature, and is so the case for the maturity level for the individual skills and competencies, which I'll talk more about in the challenges and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. So you've all been very good with the time. So we're actually even early. So now we open the floor for a couple of questions, immediate reactions to these 4 introductory presentations that you may have. Anything you'd like to ask to the presenters? It's more clarifications, and then we'll go into the discussion later in the session. So, well, if there are no questions, we assume everything was crystal clear. Now we will go more in depth and looking at the training experiences on the ground in 3 countries. We will start with France, and yes. Yes. And yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry, if something was unclear. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yes, indeed. Now we will explore more in depth the four projects after the introductory presentation. I was jumping ahead to the actual demonstration on site. So I give the floor again to Henri.
So the four of us are going to talk about challenge and opportunities. As far as BIMplement is concerned, the challenge is to achieve an improved quality for NZEB construction and renovation, that's the base, by training, by setting up a large-scale training, using BIM both as a tool for an enhanced qualification scheme and also as an on-site tool for a better understanding of the work to be implemented. BIM as a tool to communicate between different crafts. And also, we address the entire value chain in a cross-trade. They are not used to do it. Multi-level, multidisciplinary approach with hands-on at the workplace with BIM-enhanced training tools. We'll go further when we have the second part of the presentation on these tools. The approach is, hopefully it goes on, yeah, training, and we have 3 different approaches to training, the issue being how can we get the blue-collar workers to go for training. So we use clients, for instance, that make training mandatory. We have a provision set in the document of the order that impose training to all the company that get the order. That's one approach. Another approach is to have large company to impose training to their subcontractor, SMEs. And the third approach is with suppliers who want to have better workers on the sites. We are acting in 5 countries. I already mentioned them. Again, the trainings are on-site. So the training goes to the enterprise. The enterprise don't have to go to the training. Hands-on, practical, touch materials and tools. Cross-craft, they are during the training obliged to talk together around BIM models, for instance, and we address the entire value chain. The issue about architects, because some of you are architects, is first of all the quality of the BIM model is a key, of course. If the BIM model is not good, it's difficult to train blue-collar workers, white-collar with poor BIM models. And another role they have, which is very important, is that they influence the whole value chain. They influence the clients and influence the enterprise. So they have a key role, as far as we are concerned, in BIMplement.
Yes. Ariane, for NetUBIEP, yes.
Yet also certain challenges and opportunities. The challenges is especially when we are trying to give some training to professionals, especially professionals. They don't have time, and because at the moment in the Netherlands we are at top at the building of business cycle, and there is a lot of need for new buildings, and there's a lot of need for designers, which are too few. So they don't have time to go to another course, even it's free. That was quite a challenge. So we had do a lot of marketing to obtain the target group's time. Also, a problem was, okay, if we are done, how we go further with the project. We have some results, we have a qualification structure in Europe, which is in line with what we have in the Netherlands, but how the training material, the qualification structure, how do we go further with that? Now, we have now a link with Building Smart. Via Italy, Anna Moreno, the project lead, is in charge of that. And we in the Netherlands we are also trying with some branch organizations to implement the results further, and that the people are using the training. We have one thing is going on in the Netherlands. We have a new norm for NZEP tools, and that is our hook to let people train on NZEP experiences. Also, as we have gathered a lot of educators in the NetUBIEP project, and how do we sustain that network? How do we get them together to inform them about new developments? How they train themselves in new subjects? And we are we are using an existing platform for that. It's also a lot of opportunities. I've mentioned here 3. We have building a network because we notice when you have a network of educators, a new educators want to be a part of that. So. Especially when there's some certification on that. Next, you have some standardization. It's always nice because we have now BIM management courses for a few days, which cost 300, 500 euros. And we have BIM manager courses, which you do half a year, you're at 20,000 euros. It costs 20,000 euros, so that's with this project more aggregated. It's also for the constructors. They have some vacancies for BIM related functions, and they don't know for a BIM manager what he has to know, what he has to do. And we can use the BIM qualification framework for that to give inputs for the construction site and the installers to be more clear about what they need, of what the kind of people they need. Okay, that was my piece.
Thank you, Arjan. Well, standardization, yeah, certainly a big opportunity. Paul, maybe I'll just keep that going.
When I got up earlier on, I said hello to you all in Irish, and nobody in the room understood me. That was done on purpose, but maybe you did. My apologies. That was done on purpose. All the architects in the world, all the engineers in the world can understand BIM and produce great BIM drawings to reduce waste, to improve energy efficiency, and then it gets lost in translation the further down the supply chain it goes. So unless we get a language or a currency that we understand, we're always going to face these challenges. And it's not just going, I should actually say, not just going backwards in the supply chain, actually going forwards as well. In some of the projects in Ireland and the UK, where it's government procurement under the Central Procurement Directorate, which is the large tenders for government work, they ask for BIM qualifications and they ask for BIM implementation, but they don't understand what they're asking for themselves. Because we can talk about the blue-collar workers not being educated or not having the training. The public servants at the top end in the civil service in the different countries need similar training, because if they're putting out public contracts, they have to understand what they're asking for and to be able to mark that and to be able to judge that as part of the accreditation. So the challenges that we've looked at is make the modules accessible to all. Training to date and education to date in the majority are straight lines. Well, people will start their 3 or 4 year course and after 4 years finish with their qualifications. And if they drop out in between, they have nothing. So we've got to make what we call the qualification in the modules bite size. So you're not asking somebody like a bricklayer to take on 3 years work before they get a qualification. You're asking them to take on 60 hours in small modules. And then the modules can be joined together in a system that suits each person. There's the shape. You put your own picture together. If you're a bricklayer, you need certain qualification in BIM. If you're a plasterer or a different construction worker, you don't need all of the modules, especially some of the energy modules. You take the bits that suit your career, that suit you and suit your job, so you don't need to waste time doing stuff you don't need to do. If we held a head count here in the room, how many people sat through different courses in their lifetime and have never used the skills they learned? Wasted opportunity, wasted skills, wasted knowledge, wasted time. And if the employer was there, it's a waste of expense. Now again, if we go back to the people that we're targeting, blue collar workers, they're married, they're settled down, they don't have spare time. Any spare time they have is family time or recreation time. It's not learning time. So all of this has to be fitted in, and in the blue over there is what we call the flexibility to build your own skill set. How are you going to build what suits you, what you need for your job, what you need to put together to make your jigsaw? Everybody gets a jigsaw in the front of the box, there's the picture. So you have to use all of the pieces to make that picture. If you were able to put the picture together to suit yourself, well, there's 20 or 30 pieces left over because you don't need them. You don't need to pay for them. You don't need to waste time on them. But you build your own picture. And that's what we need to get to, that level of understanding, that level of delivery. And that level here at the end, what we call the curriculum accreditation. It doesn't have to be sitting down doing exams. It doesn't have to be sitting down doing theses. It doesn't have to certainly be for some of the sector sitting down and writing reports. When the last time they wrote anything was maybe when they were 18 or 20. They're now 40. So the last thing they want to do is sit down and put pen to paper. How can we measure them, as you said, on the job? By part of their job. If we're delivering a digital skill set and digital tools, can we not measure it digitally? Can we not give them the accreditation digitally and give them the award digitally and give them that bite-sized learning to put together to get their own pictures? So it's a mixture of face-to-face, online learning, global connection, what we call beyond blended, where you take what suits you and a method that suits you and a model that suits you for all sizes. Don't forget, we're looking at the whole of the supply chain. Now, we don't have all the answers. We're talking with the other colleagues in the other BIM projects, and they have bits and pieces that we all want to put together because we want to make our own jigsaw. And the biggest hurdle is, let's go back to the public end, how do we get EU accreditation? How do we get an EU currency for certification and accreditation so that somebody in France has the vocational mobility to take their BIM skills and work in Germany or work somewhere else in Europe? We come from a nation of Irish. Up until 20 years ago, our greatest export was people. Unskilled people, because they didn't have the qualification to carry with them. We'll come to it later on. How do we give people the skills and what we call the BIM passport to have vocational mobility and that to move forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I think the bite-sized methodology you highlighted is quite innovative, and I think we would have all loved to have this when we were at the time we were studying. Also, what you mentioned about qualifying the demand is something we see as a big need, not only for BIM. So yeah, now for BIMeet, yes.
Mostly it's difficult to present after Paul because I think he already spoke almost all of the things what are my slide contents. But in general, for example, the challenges, we do see it as opportunities too. For example, the roles are changing. Our architect who has graduated 20 years before cannot work as the same way as now, or how he should work, because the tools are changing, technologies are changing. There are different ways how the same thing can be done pretty much quickly and without any effort. For example, let's say there are already those kind of systems where you can simply put the indicators as what you want. For example, I want a 6-bedroom apartment with N0 building. So there are those systems that you can input those indicators and the solutions are there. The technology is there to provide you the better solutions. But you as an architect should be able to decide, or as a decision-making factor should be able to decide as these products or these solutions provided by these technologies work or are based upon my needs. I have also put on the slide that the technology is not yet completely mature because there are different levels in different places. Same with the people. So there are different maturity levels within different people and different countries. Within our consortium too, for example, in Finland is pretty much considered that it's pretty much good with BIM. But at the industry level, there are still different kind of small and medium enterprises that they do not implement it. And luckily, I'm involved in Metropolia, where we are focusing to provide these kind of BIM trainings, and we are including these energy efficiency aspects and energy corners within these kind of trainings to promote sustainability aspects that it brings. And of course, there is no any kind of dedicated educations and offerings, as for example, an architectural degree program does not include BIM and or rarely includes BIM and energy efficiency as a module because of different many reasons. For example, one might be the educator is not fully capable to incorporate these kind of new skills and technologies. Another might be the issues about the accreditation, because the course program has been accredited at national level. In order to even add something new or remove something from the existing curriculum, it's a tedious process. And so the main problem at the moment we are looking towards is when there are these kind of problems within the national level, at the educational EU level, it's pretty much difficult even to harmonize the course contents for the specific BIM related as well as energy efficiency related trainings. And the BIM maturity within different countries are different, as well as tools what is used in different specific countries are different. So we are aligning these kind of needs and solutions for different stakeholders based upon the responsibilities what they should be able to do and how they should be able to do. Within the project we have found or identified different design domains, for example, the architectural, structural, and HVAC design disciplines, as well as the client as the main force to input or kind of impose these kind of needs within the project. And of course, at the ground level, the blue workers who are working or who are building or making these things happen, they should also automatically have the knowledge of what these technologies and tools can provide and how this can help in their day-to-day works.
Thank you, Sunil. After this more detailed in-depth into the 4 projects, we will now hear about the lessons learned. These projects are already quite advanced, so they have, I think, already a number of important messages that they can pass on. So, Henri?
Okay, quickly, because we're supposed to have 3 minutes for each of the 3 parts. Lessons. It's tough to convince clients. In our case, we use them to order training, and they first have to be convinced, depending on the maturity. We already discussed that. Second lesson, BIM models are done by designers for their own use, not always for on-site implementation. So there is a gap between what they are doing in their office and what is going on site. Trainers, this was already mentioned, trainers have to be trained to be able to do BIMplement. Building companies and trainees have both to be pushed and pulled, push and pull. Obligation in France, for instance, it has become mandatory, BIM training in some sites. That works, I can tell you. Or the large company will see that also impose BIM training to its subcontractors. We are looking now for some kind of certification, which should also make more interesting for the workers to be BIM trained. Other lesson when you do work on site is that you are depending on the planning, on the schedule of the work site. And that's difficult in some cases to implement the training, which is on site again, and at the proper time of the calendar of the workplace. And again, I insist, as we find out, in many cases, architects have a key role in the process of both, because both they are responsible in many cases for the models, and second, they are, of course, good influencers in any case for clients and enterprise. That's so far what we have learned from BIMplement.
Thank you, Ariane. Yeah, there you go.
What we have learned, we have learned from the project itself, but also from other European projects like BIMplement. One of for the qualification framework, we used. Oh, I didn't touch one. Oh, even the lights are going. I think the projector is I can talk further. We had to develop a qualification framework, in another European project called ProfTrack. They had also for NZEP professional a qualification framework, and we only have to use it we only have to combine it with BIM. So that was a huge advantage for us. Also, the courses we developed are useful in other projects like Upskills. In the Netherlands, we used Upskills Advisor app. It's almost there. And the Advisor app is in the Netherlands. I don't know if it's used in other countries at the moment, but the technicians can look at an app and with some competence which they would like to develop, and then they can go to certain courses. And we for NetUBIEP we developed some courses. We tested those courses, and they are ready to be implemented in the Upskills app. Also, the courses for the technicians, we in the workforce at the site. The courses are tested in the BIMplement project as one of the tools. So that came quite handy. For it, what we learned in the project itself is, especially for the technicians, if you put a trainer in front of a few technicians, it's not going to work. It's better someone within their own company who will train the technicians. That's more easier, more accepted. And if you go in front of them and with a tie and telling them how they should work, that's not going to work in our country. That's what I would like to add.
Thank you, Ariane. Paul, for your lessons learned, you can keep it to 3 minutes.
Our lessons learned are to value everybody in the supply chain. Not just the designer at the top, but the people that are implementing it. Those on the site, the brickworkers, the carpenters and that, they have to implement the design to make sure it's energy efficient, make sure it's built for design. And we use when we're talking with the groups, we make it accessible to them by using this. It's not a straight line where you go for 5 years and get your qualification in 4 years. Stop and start wherever you want in the maze. Make the picture suit yourself. Go back. Apologies to the younger members in the audience who wouldn't understand what Pac-Man is. I include myself in the older members of the audience. But you get your prize every level you go through. You get your certification, your bite-size accreditation, your digital qualification every level you go to. And what we want then to build that into is a digital passport. Same as a pilot has to record the hours that he flies, a diver has to record the hours that he dives in order to keep their license. Make it almost like a CPC, a certificate of professional indemnity, where the workers have their CPC passport. And that's what we've come over. It's not linear. So the challenges we have, it's also to get the academics to this. Because academics think in straight lines. Because they get paid for white papers and they get paid for qualifications and they get paid for everything that goes through. It's not just redesigning the construction cycle, It's the training cycle, the academic cycle, and the certification, and making sure that people get on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Very forward-looking conclusions. And for BIMeet, you have 2 slides. Yes.
All right, thank you. So what we have identified in our BIMEET project is whenever we talk about trainings and education, so learning outcomes play an important role. So we have identified and followed this KSC matrix, knowledge, skills, and competencies for the tasks or the responsibility a person has to do. And we have used this as a base to develop these education and competence modules, which would further help the trainer and the learner to understand about the course contents, help the trainers to develop these courses as well as to implement it, and use the same criteria for competence validation and certification. Within these processes, by following these aspects and steps, we have identified these different roles, the one that you showed earlier, clients, design disciplines, and the blue-collar workers. So we have identified and developed these learning outcomes, a group of learning outcomes, and we have tried to harmonize it using the EQF levels as well as with support from the Bloom's level to identify if these learning outcomes are to be targeted for a simple basics course or some advanced course. For example, LO5 states that an architect should be able to collaborate with different design disciplines or different stakeholders. So the sub-learning outcomes support that not only the horizontal integration between different design disciplines is needed, the vertical uplifting or the connection of the skills knowledges is required in different years. So in an overall comment, we have identified these learning outcomes for those stakeholders and are on the phase of developing online learning module to implement this BIM and energy efficiency trainings, which focuses on the basic levels of training. And the continuing discussions are going on with the BIM Alliance group that has been created or merged from these 4 projects to go forward as a one through Building Smart or create another European level schemes that is required for implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. Quite exciting perspective. Yeah. Unless there are really any burning question, I suggest now we move on. Are there any burning questions? You all seem very, very quiet. Yeah. Therefore, Dragomir, maybe. Yes, go ahead. Please speak up.
By the last sentence, have you planned within the BIM Alliance to develop joint learning outcomes? Thank you. Have you planned within the BIM Alliance to develop joint or common learning outcomes for a specific educational level or for a specific profession? And can we expect something that we can use in our further activities as operators of training facilities?
It's very early stages in the BIM Alliance, but I'm loud enough. It is very early stages in the BIM Alliance, but what we're looking at, if we take a level 4, the level 4 could have 16 different modules. Private worker might need 5 of those. The rest of the modules will be targeting the business industry and the public authority. So they'll all have a level 4, a common level 4, but all different modules. So there are 4 different audiences for each of the levels, and we've started now looking at that and developing that. When we come then to the accreditation, it's Building Smart, BRE, or looking at some other vehicle for the accreditation.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, Sunil.
Just a small addition. In our learning outcomes development phase, we have looked into these different other projects and included those aspects too. So it would be a nice start to develop it further as a unified way.
Okay, thank you. Now I think it's time to move on to the actual presentation on the training approach on the ground. We will start with France, and Benjamin Fedor will present. After having set up and managed for 10 years a consultancy office in France specialized in energy efficiency, Benjamin is since 2011 developing learning tools for all actors of the building value chain, focusing on energy performance of the building envelope, ventilation, indoor air quality, and BIM. Please.
Thanks, Amandine. Hi everyone, it's a real pleasure to be with you for this afternoon session. Okay. Hi everyone, it's a real pleasure to be with you for this afternoon session and I have the opportunity to present you our approach to BIMplement training in France. Before I start, I count on your kindness if I make mistake, because it's the first time for me to speak English on public like this, so it's not easy. Thanks a lot. This presentation is done. I can start. It's time to start. I present our main topics, feedback, BIMplement, and integrating training at work experience. Voilà. As well, all we know, no more matter of difference our country. Blue collars are difficulties for coming into training centers. Blue collars are reluctant to take trainings. Collaboration between the different disciplines and building professional is still not very common, and blue collars are very difficulties with digital transition in building. I will show you how in France we answered points by points to these different difficulties. The first, blue collars are difficulties for coming into training centers. We choose as the best vehicle conclusive French experience, the integrating training at works. The training center come into the construction site. This is a maritime container. We are modified to integrate the different kind of construction. Excuse me, I have some difficulties. Non, je passe après. The main value, voilà. The training center come into the construction site. Like you can see on these different pictures. We tried by several short module methods to learn the difficulties and to facilitate the appropriation of the evolution practical. Excuse me. I continue. For the second point, blue collar are reluctant to take trainings. We are developing. Faut que je prenne mes notes. Ah, excusez-moi. We have developed a range of. Voilà, c'est ça. Il faut que je lise, tout simplement. We are developing a range of interactive education tools to facilitate understanding of issues like ventilation, indoor quality air, air tightness, insulation. For BIM, blue collars with the difficulties with digital transition in building, BIM is not concrete. For this point, we make our Revit model of training plateau. For different projects, if we don't have BIM model, It's not a problem for us because we can try our training model to learn of good practice, to show what is a very objective goal to achieve. BIM is too expensive. We are introducing in our practices to use free viewer. For this example, in French it's available. It's Tekla BIMsite. It's for our blue collar to facilitate to views and to not to draw, not to describe, but with the same viewer you can prove of quality of work performed. So it's concrete for our blue collars. Why participants like this type of blending learning? Like you can see, it's approved by a larger majority of trainings, 88%. The main reasons for the success, the three main reasons. Short training session in which learners are really actors. A short training session in which there are more place for practice than theory, 70-13. Short training sessions that offer concrete answers for our blue collars. To finish, more information on integrating training at works and the opinions of the participants. We can load YouTube like. It's possible. Perdu. Alors, je pose. Bah ça. Voilà. Bon. Merci.
Évolue vite. Les acteurs des chantiers ont besoin de toujours mieux maîtriser les gestes et pratiques professionnelles. Aujourd'hui, les techniques de construction évoluent vite. Les acteurs des chantiers ont besoin de toujours mieux maîtriser les gestes et pratiques professionnelles. Si les professionnels...
Bon bah tant pis, sinon on va pas les mettre. Tant pis, on le laissera sur la présentation. Can be used after. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. I think, yes, the mock-ups you've developed are really successful. And I had the pleasure to visit your production site, and I think it's really something fantastic, which already shows concrete results. So well done, really. Yeah, I think now we'll hear about the experience in the Netherlands. Arjan, yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay, BIMplement. I've had a few slides. We work together with two field labs in the Netherlands, at Heembouw and at EUSEW. Heembouw is a construction company, and EUSEW is an installer company. The main target or main subject of the project is air tightness and ventilation. So air tightness is done by Heembouw, and ventilation issue is done by EUSEW. So that's why we partnered with those two companies. Now the issue is by Heembouw is how we can get information to the building sites. That was a problem, because I don't know it's in your country the same, but in our country we have a very different people who make designs, and people who are at the site building projects. And the translation between preparation of a design and construction, that's not always done right. So we developed a methodology which to overcome that problem. And training is a big part of it. First, we have to analyze from how BIM mature is the company, what has they done already, what worked, what didn't work. That is done. They have a format, BIMplement. We use that also. We talked a lot with managers, project leads, people who work with the hand, the technicians. And we assess some weak points about air tightness at Heenbouw. Further, we have one or two weak points and build a step instruction guide with model information. Now, and the question to the people we ask for the week to find the weak points. What is most irritating in your work daily, if regarding to air tightness and ventilation. After that, we have to build some quality checkpoints in the instruction guides. We trained people in it, how to build themselves an instruction guide with quality checkpoints. It's more an abstract thing to do for the managers or the site managers. And what you would like to have is a kind of IKEA or Lego manual for the people who are building the project. After this, you can identify some qualifications which are needed to how to solve the weak points, and link to some instruction to the information guide and to the model. We have some first results, and I don't know if the English term is correct. There's een dakrand, low eaves. Eaves, okay, so thank you very much. That's a big problem in the Netherlands because of leakages. When there's water on the roof and it can go away, that's the first problem, which it is also for air. So we produce a generic guideline for those low eaves because of leakages, from how to construct that, and the guideline is generated from directly from the IFC model. So the technician knows which steps to do to obtain a good low eave. This is in the testing phase with the contractors, with subcontractors from Heenbouw. That are the experimental sites for Heenbouw. Heenbouw is a field lab, and we are waiting for the results. Then we have EUSEW, the installer, the HVAC company, and it's the other way around. For how do you get information from the building site to the designers? It is hard to produce BIM models which are usable at the construction site. The BIM model is more an abstract thing for the technician. It's more like a guideline on how to build to construct a building. But more small details are overlooked or are talked to easy by the designer. So they have to solve that in the work itself. At first sight, the BIM build is okay, not useful. And what we're trying to do is to get the experience from the technician, from what problem are they having, back to the drawing board. How do you do that? always first check van how. Nou, okay, is the BIM used in the construction companies? What for information issues do they have? How does the information flow? Is in the company. Choose one of the two information issues and devise a strategy for sending feedback. And that's the thing what we are concentrating on. And also how to instruct those technicians for how to devise their own strategy, because a lot of technicians in the Netherlands are not very talkative to the to management. They get a drawing and they develop it according to the drawing. But if they're not sure if that's correct of their experience, they have to give some feedback, and we are training to give them the feedback in the right way. Then is the process the feedback into the model and communicate the results, because if there's some problem coming back over and over and over again, they have to be shared among all the technicians and all the designers. And also maybe there's some improvement of the qualifications necessary if some errors keep returning, that you have to work on that. These are the first results, and that is a ventilation duct which was going through a fire resistant wall, and you have to make a hole in the wall. The duct is going through, but the space between the hole and the wall has to be filled with some fire preventing material, fire resisting material. But always the space was too small between that. For the technicians can't work with that. They have to go with their hands between that spaces, and that was not possible. So we added a rule set at Solibri model checker to prevent that, and it's that generates automatically from okay, you have enough space around that channel. Oh, that's this also. We have 50 experimental sites. Yeah, no, I'm almost done. No, this is more into this is the training pack we use. The field lab results, the work feedback, step-by-step instruction, the use of the BIM viewer. We explained that because that is not very used. NZEP air tightness of ventilation instruction, and the NetUBIEP e-learning module. We are using that for the technicians, and we are completed that with videos, which we are interviewing someone at the site, and we are filming them so that can be used as e-learning material. And also the Build Up Skills app we are using. That's it.
Thank you, Arjan. I think people will get the reference to all the tools you mentioned, so they may refer to it later. I think you highlighted really well how the BIM model can be really used as an information carrier. Now, to conclude, a presentation about the Polish experience with Piotr Demarski. Piotr coordinates the implementation of BIM in one of the largest construction companies in Poland, that is called Mostostal Warszawa. Currently, he is involved in 3 European projects that relate to BIM in the renovation process in P2 and EUR, the interoperability and data exchange in BIM speed, and of course the upskilling of construction workers in BIMplement. Yes.
Darcia, can I ask for the... Yes. Perfect. Okay. Yes, this one? Okay. Hello, my name is Piotr Demarski, and I'm a BIM coordinator in one of the construction companies in Poland called Mostostal Warszawa. And in BIMplement project, my role is to be a BIM coach. It means that I have to convince decision makers to use this technology in our organizations. On the slide, you can also AEC BIMplement trainers. These people are responsible to conduct trainings on our organization, in our organization, and on the construction sites. So the goal of this presentation is to present our first experience from the awareness campaign and from the first trainings from the general construction point of view. When we starting talking about the BIM implementation to our employees, we have realized that we have to use the language of benefits. When the construction site organizes its facilities, do they really think about the architecture BIM model? The answer is no. So implementation, we start to understand. We don't start from the decision what kind of software they have to use, but from understanding the real problems, and we analyze how BIM can help resolve these problems. So my first question to audience, does anyone know what are the first serious problems that can increase the cost during the contract? Excavations. When we start making awareness campaign to the people, to the constructors, we will prepare a BIM model. You will have scheduling. We didn't achieve their attention. And when I mentioned at the end of the conversation in one of our experimental sites, we can also make a design in BIM excavation, then everyone was listening us. Because so we were asked to specify the coordinate for humus for humus removal, to have as little material as possible to be removed, because we have savings of the cost. However, due to the high level of groundwater, there was a risk of flooding. So based on the geodetic measurements, we created the model and we indicated the level of excavations to be on the safe side. With this work, we get attention of workers, and we even get first savings, because we indicated that, we pointed that 200 piles don't have to be built in the ground to construct the fire road. So thanks to this, we get around 25,000 euros of savings, even before implementation BIM on the site. It was only an awareness campaign. So this is like my impact in BIMplement project. But when we get attention of the construction workers, then we started analyzing with them the real needs of the construction site. So we identify some functionalities that could help them in their daily work. It's browse the model, getting information from the model, quantity takes off, communication through the platform, and clash detection. But of course, we had to prepare these trainings for them, to teach them how to use these tools. And in this phase, I started BIMplement trainings. First of all, construction workers don't have to use native files. This is reserved for designers, architects, a BIM coordinator, but when we are talking about the blue and white collar workers on the construction site, they can easily use IFC file, which contains less information. Then quantity takes off. You can, our employees, they have to count materials to make ordering, or they have to they need to count materials, or they have to count the work that has been done by our stakeholders. And a simple browser with IFC model can really help them in this work and save the time. On this video, the guy will grab hands on the head because we counted very quickly the necessary information for him just in 2 minutes. That normally he spent a lot of time to count materials using 2D information. What else? We teach them how to search elements from the model. There are hidden our logos, M logos hidden in the building, and they have to use browser, and they have to find these elements. This is the first step. But after that, we show them that this work can be done simply by searching the name of these elements. So another thing to how we can impress them. Then we go smoothly to the scheduling. We divide our workers into 2 groups. First one has to construct the building based on 2D documentation, and the second works on 4D BIM model. Who will be the winners? Of course, it's easy to predict that the second group will be the winner. But in this this exercise, there is a very important thing that the first group, that the second group knew exactly where they are during the whole construction process, because they work on 4D BIM model, and the first one didn't know where they are. Another important functionality, then clash detection. We prepare for them IFC model, and they, using the browser, they detect the clash detection and they mark it on the table, on the paper. But after that, using specific dedicated software for that, we make it in a more automatic way. When we are talking about the coordination, when we are talking about the coordination, we also prepare trainings to the designers and architects that we are collaborating, because coordination should be made on the specific platform dedicated for that. So we show them how to create issues, how to resolve issues on this platform, how to control number of resolve and pending problems. And in Poland, this is the case that not all designers work in BIM. Then general constructions company take responsibility and risk to create BIM models based on 2D drawings. Another important thing that even our workers are not prepared mentality that they have to start work in the very open and transparent communication. When we are talking about the HVAC installations, we make also coordination using virtual reality. So this is the roof and ventilation units, and we designed it. We designed in the model, and after that we ask our workers to take glasses and to take a virtual walk, because it was requirement from the investor that ventilation units cannot be seen from the ground floor. So she or he can have a virtual walk and decide is this unit is correct or not. And of course, everything we do that that we everything we do that, of course, for the digitalization to replace paper documentation in digital form. And very quick summary. So we conduct trainings on construction site. The duration is about 4 hours because workers have to work. We don't make trainings about the software because it's not interesting. We make trainings about the functionalities. We have to use models from the construction site to arouse interest of the workers because they want to work on models from their construction sites. So is it very good to divide people into two groups, one that work in the traditional way and the second way in the modern way using BIM models, because then we can easily see the difference and make comparisons. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Piotr, for this interactive presentation with some quite concrete examples of using BIM on site. So, well, we are reaching almost the end of this session. In the remaining minutes that we have, we were actually planning to have a couple of questions to you. So what we would like to do now is to run through a quick set of questions, and if you can just raise your hand or not, and then we can, this gives us a bit of a picture. Yes. So the first question from us is, did this session add it to your knowledge of BIM or not? If yes, please raise your hand. Well, quite a good number. I can also... Okay, next. Would you be interested in participating in any of the trainings that were presented today? Wow, I'm impressed. Thank you. Would you refer these trainings to your colleagues at work? It's also... Okay, more of a mixed picture. Now, how many of you are architects working with BIM? That's quite a small sample. So I think the next questions will be a little bit biased then. How many architects in the audience use BIM to collaborate with other disciplines? I think, as we have seen, it's quite important. So, yeah, so good. How many architects discuss with the construction company how the model should be parameterized in order to be effectively used on site by the workers, by construction workers? There's quite a clear picture there as well. Okay, so certainly some of the lessons learned from today will be useful. How many architects?
How many practicing architects are in the home?
Okay, that's true. No, as I said, it's a very small. It's a very small. Absolutely, absolutely. How many of you obtain feedback from the technicians directly at the construction stage? I think that's also not the case. And the final question, how many think there is a shortage of training for architects focusing on the BIM process? Okay. So maybe not a shortage of training, but a need to upscale some of the existing solutions. Yeah.
Training that, I don't know, AutoCAD or different software companies
Yeah.
giving you, but it's not like giving you a global picture,
Yes. Training on a given software is not the same, yes, indeed. It's a good point. Yeah. 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 Are there any more comments or reactions before we... Yes, please.
Maybe another question. European Business Confederation representing construction SME. I had a question actually to all the projects. That's something because we all mentioned several stakeholders and sometimes also specific programs to reach certain target groups. If I'm not mistaken, none of them was a specific program for construction SMEs. And we all know that if we don't get them on board, the uptake is never going to to be correct. In yours, I was just going to make a reference to BIMCert because there I heard something, but I think in the first project BIMplement, I had these 3 layers, which were the clients, then I don't remember the 2 others, but none of them was. So here with the question, we just heard that there is a problem in the transmission phase from the architect to the construction site. So what is your, not even your technical perspective on that, but how do you want to reach? What is your communication strategy to reach really construction SMEs, and not only SMEs, but more the micro and small companies that are really, I think, around 95% of the construction industry enterprises?
Would like to,
In-
yes?
In the BIMcert project, one of our partners is CITB, which is the Construction Industry Training Board, which is Northern Ireland and the UK. They're a key partner. So when we showed you the circle at the start, it allows us to make sure anything we develop is fit for purpose. So they help deliver and they help set that. So they set the language, they set the tone. But our other partners also link in with their construction partners as well. So we make sure it's fit for purpose. There's no sense us coming out with a degree in BIM when industry want a level 4. And it's through them and through the other partners in CETA, which is the Construction Industry Training Alliance in Dublin, and BRE in the UK, and with the other partners in Building Smart, we link in with the industry to get to the small companies. Because the advantage the small companies have with BIM is they can collaborate and start winning government tenders in the UK and Ireland. Because some of the predeterminants are you must be BIM qualified. The bigger companies don't have it, but 2 or 3 smaller companies do have it. And they are now starting to win tenders. Whereas before, it was out of their park, it was not their territory. But because they have the BIM education or the BIM skills, they're able to do that. Another thing is we see it at home is the design and build contracts, where the contract will go out and the builder has to design and build and submit that. They're then responsible for the quality of the building that's handed over. And it was talked earlier about the digitization. By building records into the handover, you're able then to pass over the story of the building. And very simply, everybody on a building site is one of those. So the bricklayers now, on the training we do, take digital photographs of their corners, of their cold bridging. Because once the cavity's put and closed, you can't see what's inside it. But as part of the training, the bricklayer must show that the insulation runs to the corner, that the cold bridging is covered. So the owner, who is the design and build, has a digital record of the quality of the build. So BIM is not just about the skills, it's about the record keeping. Making sure that when you have a building, you've designed it fit for purpose, but was it built fit for purpose? And is it being managed fit for purpose? Don't forget that other bit of the life cycle. Design, build, management and demolition. All of them have an energy footprint there. And if the records are kept from the start, it allows you to look at the full life cycle. But importantly, to get down to the SME level.
Thank you, Paul. All right. I think we should close now this session. I think we've heard a lot of interesting examples. In conclusion, I'd just like to make reference to a study that was issued in January by the Committee for European Construction Equipment. And I took just one quote, which says, "Digitalization of the building sector requires more than adopting innovative softwares. It calls for a redefinition of organizations and business models, therefore affecting not only technical skills but also managerial ones." And I think we've seen that through all these presentations. So there's a big transition, there's a big move to be made, but it's possible, and we've seen example of how this can happen. So we hope you find this informative and interesting, and I'd like to thank all our speakers for their excellent presentations, I believe, and we wish them the best of luck for their future activities. Well,
Can I ask just before we finish?
Yeah.
We all have materials on the 4 sites. It needs to be road tested. You're the people that can road test it and
Yep.
come back with feedback.
definitely.
Is it good? Is it fit for purpose? Does it need changed? So don't be afraid to come back and tell us, because
Yeah.
if we put material out there to industry, it must be fit for purpose. And you're the experts. So we could do a Microsoft, release Microsoft Word and let you find the glitches and come back.
Definitely. So, yeah, your feedback is important. Without further ado, I will pass the floor to my colleague Olaf, who will highlight the future perspectives, because there's a lot also coming on the horizon.
So, thank you. I was asked to draw some conclusions of this day also, which I think is a quite challenging task given the amount of topics we have seen. And I also think everybody will take home his own messages from this session, but I tried, however, to put things in 4 points. So personally, I thought it was a very rich and interesting day. We've seen a lot of different thematics. Deep renovation of buildings is important and will remain important. We have seen 90% of the buildings currently will still be around in 2050. We know the challenges of the aging building stock in Europe. And also what came through here today for me was the need for a more holistic approach towards building renovation, looking at energy efficiency, of course, but also looking, for example, at comfort, looking at indoor climate, and also looking at financing. We also had a nice session on the levels approach and discussions on levels versus voluntary certification schemes. The need for building data, the need to talk about in one language about building data, voluntary versus obligatory if we talk about schemes, which is a discussion that will never end. Then of course the BIM session. The BIM session also shows the need for education, training, but also the challenge to keep or to make people enthusiastic about training, to get them there, and then not only for blue collar but also for other levels. And the challenges that also digitalization will put in the future on training, not only BIM, but there will also be new other things that are upcoming. So we also have seen here, I think 5, 7, 9 European projects today. It also shows the richness of these projects. Not only you implement things on the ground, but what you implement also feeds back to us in terms of policy. And buildings, we will continue with buildings in the future, and my presentation will show you the upcoming calls and also something about who is EUSEW for those who don't know, and also look in the further future, 2021, 2027. So let's start. Of course, EUSEW. Who is EUSEW? EUSEW is the executive agency for small and medium-sized enterprises. We are part of the European Commission and we manage projects, programs for the European Commission. We do this with the whole project life cycle. We start with proposal evaluation together with external experts. We help with the grant agreement preparation. We also do the follow-up of projects. And finally, the things that we learn from those projects, we give back, we feed back to the DGs, DG Ener, DG Environment, DG Grow, in terms of what they could take on board on future policies. Our programs, 10.4 billion euro, 2014-2020. And then you see also how it's devised. The biggest lump goes to Horizon Europe. Then LIFE takes a nice part of it. We have COSME, and we also have the Maritime and Fisheries Fund, which is in your setting probably less relevant. H2020 energy efficiency. Most of you know the types of actions. We have research and innovation actions that really is about developing new innovative things. Funding rate is 100% and maximum 3 beneficiaries. Innovation actions, they are a bit further up in the technology readiness indicators, and try basically to bring those new technologies and solutions to a first deployment on the market. Different funding rate, 70%. And then of course the lump of coordination and support activities, which we have seen here several presented today. So it's looking at skills improvement, trying to mobilize investments, facilitate EU policy implementation. You also see the different sectors covered by energy efficiency. We do buildings, consumers and services, industry and products, public authorities, and also the financing. 2018, the results of the latest year call. At this moment, we have 2 additional projects that we are negotiating. Negotiating and preparing the grant agreement. So we are now up to 90 million euro of funding and 49 projects. Building projects take the biggest lump out of the budget with second biggest with 20.5 million, just after industry and products. The others are also consumer and services, innovative financing, which is also a very important topic, and also public authorities. This is the currently ongoing call for proposals, so you have still until the 10th of September to submit your proposal. And this is for one of the following topics. We have, of course, a topic on decarbonization of the European building stock. It's an innovation action. We look at integrated home renovation services, CSA, and also again looking at energy skills for sustainable energy in the construction sector, CSA, smartness in buildness, innovation action, next generation of EPCs, innovation action, and something totally different and new, namely bioclimatic approaches for improving energy performance in buildings in Africa and Europe. It's new, it's something we try out this year. We don't know how many proposals we will have or where it will lead us in the future. It's just a tryout. Information is available on our website. And well, if you plan to submit a proposal, if you haven't started yet, I think it's time to hurry up, given the deadline of 10th of September. So I hope those who wanted to submit a proposal already started drafting. H2020, we will of course continue our funding for energy efficiency in the building sector in 2020. It will now have a new heading. It will be called Building in Energy Transition, B4E. It's fancy, I know. And next week we have an info day on this. It's the big Horizon 2020 Energy Info Days. It's 3 days, of which the 3rd day is for the buildings and H2020 energy sector. So 27th of June you will know a lot more of the topics that are upcoming in 2020, of which I will give you a quick flavor in the next slide. Maybe important to know is that we will have 2 call deadlines in 2020. So one will close on 15th of January and starts at 16th of July. So it's kind of interfering with the current call for proposals. Those who want to submit for both will have quite some work. And then the second deadline is opening on the 5th of March 2020 and closing in September 2020. Here is a quick overview of the topics. Please note this is more or less the official list, but it's of course still not adopted, neither nor certified by the European Commission, so changes are still theoretically possible at this moment. If you look at it, this is the ones for the deadline of 15th of January 2020. So the call will open in July. First of all, we look again at energy efficient and decarbonized buildings. We will look at building renovation in a more holistic way, taking into account life cycle costs, also looking at aspects of occupant comfort, aspects of indoor climate. So it will be a very holistic approach. There are a lot of different points under it, so it will take some time to read and but you will see there already this holistic approach that we are going for. Integrated design concepts for energy efficient ICT in buildings. This topic mainly comes from the observation that there is a lot of data traffic today. We will see new tendencies, Internet of Things, we will see blockchain, we will see new 5G applications, and we also will see edge computing. And with this topic we want to focus ourselves on data centers and server rooms in buildings, and how those data centers can be integrated in the overall energy system of the building, taking into account heating and cooling, taking into account renewable energy, storage of energy. So it's also a very new topic. We look for projects with 3 pilots, data centers up to 250 kilowatts. Big data for buildings. Big data for buildings, you see we have 2 topics basically looking into big data. The first topic wants to look in a regulatory framework for big data for buildings, and also try to do a pilot of cloud and open source data analytic tools. So it's basically creating a framework for working on big data. While the second topic, the European building stock data, this works more on the soft framework around building big data, like bringing together the stakeholders, those who have the data, those who can, and then this to allow and to guarantee access to the data for a larger audience, and also to bring really coordination between those that manage the data. There we hope to develop a vision, a European vision on big data for the future also, taking into account automated feeding of data, taking into account real-life visualization of current status of the European building stock. Then we also have a topic on renewable energy efficient solutions for heating and or cooling, and domestic hot water production in multi-apartment residential buildings. Here we want to look how those solutions can move multi-apartment residential buildings away from fossil fuel dependence. Then support to the coordination of European smart buildings innovation community. This is a topic where we want to get to know and to map basically the European smart buildings innovation environment, and to let them work together to coordinate activities between them. It's like a mapping exercise again. And then self-assessment and self-optimization of buildings and appliances for better energy performance. There I'm going to take my note, because that's a bit a topic where we want to develop and demonstrate cost-effective technological solutions for the self-assessment of actual energy performance of buildings and products which use energy in those buildings. So the ones responsible for this topic will explain it to you next week, because it's a rather technical topic, this one. Then the next slide, this is the deadline for 10th of September 2020. There you see we will work on the skills in the building sector again, and we basically want to create a market or open up the market for those skills by working on the framework of it. I mean then the tools, the legal framework. It's working on what has been done to really create a market for professional buildings trained peoples. Then upgrading the smartness of existing buildings through innovations for legacy equipment, and that's also again one of those very interesting topics. There we want to change the role of the building from consuming energy to distributed energy generation, energy storage, smart charging of electric vehicles. So basically go away from energy consumers towards a building really integrated in the energy system with all kind of site-related things like electric vehicles, storage, etc. Next generation of energy performance assessment and certification. The previous topic was an innovation action. This is a CSA. So here we really want to work on a more conceptual next generation of energy performance certificates, also linking towards the building passports, taking into account again a holistic and cost-effective manner to look at envelopes of buildings, system performance, smart readiness. So it's really to develop a new generation. And then the last topic is enabling next generation of smart energy services, valorizing energy efficiency and flexibility at the demand side. This topic wants to build on the same topic in 2018-2019, but basically take the most successful of those services and bring those to a larger market. So really build up on the successes from previous years and then further develop those services that were the most successful. That's in a nutshell 2020. 21-27 we will keep working on energy performance in buildings and also in energy efficiency as a whole. First of all, capacity building and policy support on energy efficiency will probably, because this is all not set in stone, will probably move to live clean energy transition, while research and innovation, technology in energy efficiency, also energy efficiency in buildings will go to Horizon Europe. And then of course direct support towards clean energy efficient investments is also still possible via the cohesion funds, via the European regional funding. And then for those who are interested, also there is a follow-up of the Juncker investment plan in the pipeline, the so-called InvestEU or InvestEU instrument is also the period 2021-27 and has a slightly bigger budget. That's it in a nutshell how it looks for the future until 27. Of course, like always, we are looking for experts. You know, we have our fantastic H2020 funding and tenders portal. There is there a section where you can enroll yourself to work as an expert for us. I would say it's recommended. Our experts database is getting a bit used, especially for more specific topics like deep renovations or probably skills also. Smart buildings, we lack experts, so if you are an expert in those fields, please feel free to register because we're really lacking people. Then to conclude, some publications and some other background information that we have available where you can get inspiration for future topics. One is a publication on high energy performing buildings that we published. You can download it, and it basically looks in 24 H2020 projects doing deep renovations and ZEPs and also smart buildings. We also have a result pack of 7 deep renovation projects. It's available in different languages and it's downloadable via Cordis. And then we have also something not developed by us on the energy efficient buildings PPP, which is also covering 174 projects and looks in technology, advanced materials, construction processes, BIM, energy performance, and can also be downloaded. Of course, we also have our nice build-up web portal. I guess most of you in the room know the portal. It's really a source of information. You can find their documents, learning, news. At this moment, we are discussing to give it a slight makeover to bring it more up to date. Not very, very deep, but it's possible over the next few months that suddenly you will find a revamped version of the portal, which should make your life easier to find things and to get better connected with the build-up environment. That's it from my side. So basically explanations on the calls for proposals. Keep in mind 2020 2 deadlines. Next week, big days on the 2020 topics. So if you're not registered, just register and come over there to have full explanations. Thank you.